Hi, my name is Nagadivyasree. My metric number is 263500. Today, I am going to discuss about my individual assignment. My topic is public corruption in Malaysia. In the era of globalization, leaders are struggling to build a good government to provide better services to the citizens. However, they often face obstacles to achieve their objective. People are the government's primary asset, and people's attitude will directly affect the government. The prominent people's mindset that influence the government is corruption. Corruption is not a new dilemma, and it is common among the people. Corruption started when people become more greedy and materialistic. Corruption is an age-old problem, and yet it is not ending. In Malaysia, corruption is become primary focuses, and the fight against corruption is not yet ended. It is sad to know that corruption still exists in Malaysia, although Malaysia is a democracy. According to Transparency International 2020, the Malaysia had a score 51 out of 180 in 2019 and 50 out of 100. The Malaysia had been declared as second cleanest country in South Asia. Does this mean Malaysia is free from corruption? According to the Malaysian Reserve 2017, 7 out of 10 Malaysian top management personal position believe bribery and corruption are part of the business, and 64 believe that business cannot be run without paying bribes. The recent scandal that involved huge money and other country transactions in the 1MDB case is a proof that Malaysia is still under corruption. The media does not give much attention to the 1MDB case due to the political issues. However, it is undeniable that corruption still exists in Malaysia, and it involves government staff and officials who are in higher positions. There have been a lot of studies and theories to curb corruption. However, it is not a machinery problem. It is an ethical issue. It is not easy to change people's ethics, which make corruption alive. The definition of public sector corruption. First of all, public sector corruption refers to the exploitation or abuse of entrusted power with a public official by a public official of his or her benefit and gain. Secondly, according to Shalif 1993, defines that government corruption as the sale by government employees of the government property for personal growth. Finding a perfect definition of corruption can be a challenge. However, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission refers to corruption as the act of giving or receiving any gratification or reward in the form of cash or kind of high value for performing a task related to his or her job description. Literature review. Based on W. Vishney, 1993. Public corruption involves government workers who collect bribes to provide their services. As we know, government provides various services such as permit, passport, license, and government tenders. The government officials take advantage to collect bribes to offer those services without the knowledge of the government. In addition, the corruption spread due to a competition between the government officials and the customers. It is hard to control the action of government officials since that a lot of bureaucracy and agency. Hashim 2017. Public sector corruption can be classified into grand corruption, which is tremendous amount of public funds and resources are stolen or misused by an political or administrative elite. Secondly, petty corruption is whereby middle and low level of public officials abuse their positions in providing goods and services to the citizens, whereby public officials and politicians collude with the private sector in the pursuit of mutual interests. Another issue in Malaysia is that related to corruption is whoever arrested under corruption is not necessarily successfully prosecuted. In this case, most officials seek upper hand help, and they successfully escape from the punishment. It gives no impact on those people to stop collect bribes. As we see, corruption mostly happens in the top management and involves higher grade officials, and they are harder to punish by law since the influence of political and power. Based on Sivalingam 1983, the living expenses and the tradition of gift-giving, government restriction in the economy, and the pattern of race relations are the reasons for corruption. The increasing living expenses has made government officials face financial issues to run their life. To get a sophisticated life, government officials collect bribes. There was a gift-giving tradition in the past years, like year past. It changed into another form of corruption. The pattern of race relation plays a massive role in corruption, as we know all know. Malay overtake politics, whereas Chinese have full control of economic. A Malay sees the bribe as a loss to the Chinese and a gain to the Malays. In 2015, Malaysia recorded a severe corruption scandal involving higher government officials and politicians who shocked the world. According to Journals 2020, the 1MDB case, corruption fund, involved illicit flows of money, and that is why it is difficult to trace. Bribery also involved one party bribed the other to arrange and underwrite the bond issues. 1MDB involves money laundering and false declaration and bond mispricing. In this case, the Malaysia government tried to hide the scandal by influencing others officials and the investigator in the National Audit Department and the Malaysian Anti-Commission Corruption. However, when the Tun Dr. Mahathir overtook the government, he tried to find out the truth and prosecuted the related parties. Based on BEH 2017, without exemption, every nation needs to define and promote ethical conduct and restrain bureaucratic corruption and curb unethical bureaucratic behavior. The Civil Service Commission plays a preventive role in the setting standards and norms for civil service appointments and a punitive role in meeting penalties and punishment for the violations. Whether real or imagined, public sector corruption has considerable impacts on the perception as the credibility, dependability, integrity, legitimacy, and trustworthiness of government and its administrative machinery and quality of governance of a country. First of all, public corruption exists due to the lack of ethics among government officials. There is a code of ethics such as trust, integrity, responsibility, excellence, loyalty, discipline, and professionalism that government officials need to follow to avoid immoral actions. The code of ethics ensures that government officials provide better services to the people without having their interests. Not only that, the main effect of public corruption is where corruption lowers the quality of public infrastructure, biases in government expenditure. This also gives significant negative impact toward the corruption on public revenue. The impact of corruption are that public corruption lowers the community confidence in public authorities and wastes the taxpayers' fund. Not only that, the people might lose goods and services due to the corruption. Moreover, corruption will affect the international trade. As we know, the exporters from less corrupt countries would face disadvantage in importing countries with a high corruption level. The corruption index of the importing countries is negative and statistically significant, thus increase the market share of the exporter. For exporters that choose to deal with the corrupt countries, they obtain low market share. Public corruption are very challenging to control due to the huge amount of employees and many authorities. It is hard to prove the crime because corruption happens in many forms such as money, properties, luxury vacation, and so on. Related agencies face difficulties to provide the individual are pleaded guilty with relevant evidence. Apart from the government initiative, every individual must learn and understand the importance of ethics, which will curb the unethical actions. Individuals with moral standards and ethics will be able to classify his or action right or wrong, and also will not act against the law. Following the rules and regulations is one of the ethics. As a conclusion, corruption only can be eliminated through ethics, as individuals with ethics would not involve in any immoral activities such as corruption. Ethics is a asset that works as barrier to avoid unethical action of employees. The top management of agencies need to carefully monitor their employees. An ethical person will not involve in any unethical action. Government need to consider ethical standards while hiring government servants. That's all. Thank you.